The Bike Karma Bicycle Stories podcast is brought to you with support from the Frame and Wheel, helping you turn your cycling items into cash without the hassle, and AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler bicycles. Become bike, become AD Bikes.
Episode 79.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast. I'm your host, Tom Brown. If you like bicycles and stories, you're in the right place. Roadies, mountain, gravel, BMX, touring, novice or expert, riding, wrenching, collecting, or all of the above. If this is your first time, we have stories from around the world about every facet of bicycles and cycling. They're curated and lovingly edited. They're no drop, just like a no drop ride doesn't leave anybody behind. We won't bury you in name drops and technical information that's not explained. So if you'd throw your leg over any bike you got the opportunity to take for a roll, this show's for you. This time we learn about the rise of bike buses, a kind of critical mass for the elementary school set. And without shaming anybody, we know that tri-bikes are a challenge to work on, but how do they compare to a bike from a chicken coop? And if you ever wondered if you could stop your bike when your brakes fail, then listen on. You have a cajillion podcasts that you could be listening to, and I really appreciate you coming along with me for the ride on mine. Let's roll out. That was the sound of a bicycle bus starting. This next story is heartwarming and wonderful and hopeful and a great way to start the new year. Depending on how long you've been riding bikes, you may or may not have heard of the term critical mass. It's used casually to say we have enough bikes to be able to take the lane and own the road. Cyclists are legally allowed to take the lane. Back in the day, some of these group rides were taken to the extreme. They were organized, had hundreds if not thousands of people riding their bikes at one time through a certain route. A lot of these rides in major cities became infamous or famous depending on your perspective, and they were, in my view, a wonderful way that people showed a united front to cycling. A rolling affirmation and celebration of cycling culture and the desire to be seen and safe. So if you're interested in that, look at the history of critical masses. There's a few good books on the subject. And when somebody yells critical mass on a group ride that you're on that's much smaller than one of those huge parades of bicycles, you kind of know where they're coming from now. Well, imagine taking all that excitement and energy of riding together and making a statement and enjoying each other's company and just being like, yeah, we're here, and bringing it to the morning on the way to school. This is what pioneer coach Balto and others like him have done. So let's hear about the rise of the bike bus movement.
I'm Sam Balto. I'm a physical education teacher. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I'm a Safe Streets for Kids advocate, and I lead the Alameda Bike Bus to my school. I work in Portland Public Schools.
What is a bike bus?
A bike bus is an organized bike ride to school with a designated route and meeting times, and you ride together, and it creates safety in numbers, and it's a super joyful and fun way to get to school.
Now, did you invent this?
No, nobody invented bike buses. Kids and communities have been riding bikes together since bikes were created. I think it's just coming out of the pandemic has really caught on. People are really craving community and opportunities for joy, and the bike bus does that really well.
You went viral with this bike bus of yours. Could you describe it in very basic terms, like when you wake up in the morning, how do you get this bike bus going?
Yeah, so I'm a parent of two kids, a 6 and a 4-year-old, and I have a very supportive wife. I, leave a little bit earlier. This is the school that I teach at. Our route leaves at 8:10, so we usually get to the meeting spot. My son sits in the cargo bike because I take him to his school right afterwards. We get there around 8 a.m., and we all hang out, myself, the other volunteers, and the students. And then at 8:10, I give a little pep talk, reminder of the expectations, and then we start riding. And about a mile away, there's another group that does the exact same thing that leaves at 8:10, and then we meet at a spot about a mile from school, and then we ride the last mile from school together.
And what are the range of age of kids that you're picking up as you go along? So you're riding along, and kids just come out of their driveways and join this group.
Yeah, so definitely, some students and families, they meet at like the designated meeting spots, but then other families just know if we're leaving at 8:10 and they live a couple blocks south, they'll just hang out on the side of the road or on the, in a driveway at, 8:10, and then a couple moments later we'll bike by, and when they find a gap, they just join us.
I'm getting just great bike feelings as a teacher myself, just thinking about this happening. What are some of the responses that you've had to this bike bus since you've been doing it?
Yeah, tons of positive responses. My principal said that students arrive to school on bike bus mornings calmer and more ready to learn. They just enter the building better. And we just hear a lot from students and from their parents about how much confidence the kids have gained from the bike bus, how they really see it as a part of their identity. And a really cool story was I was in New York City for a bike conference, a transportation conference last October, and I was at the gate to fly back to Portland, and I had my bike bus jacket on, and these two parents came up to me, and they were like, "It's really random. Our son goes to your school, and we just moved here, and he does the bike bus, and it's really helped with him getting to meet friends and to know who's in his neighborhood. So it's, really helped make that transition much easier for their child."
What's been some of the challenges with putting together a bike bus and keeping it going? Is this an every morning thing?
No, we do it once a week. I tell people, volunteerism is inequitable and unsustainable. And so I, say volunteer and do this as consistently as you can consistently do it. So for our community, we're able to do it once a week, and that feels like a good amount. There's some communities that do bike buses that are once a month, and that's amazing. When I was in Boston, I used to lead walking school buses and at a Title I school, and we would just do them once a season. So fall, winter, and spring, and every time we did it, we'd see growth. And I think the consistency piece is really important. And, we have these walk and bike to school day events, and, everybody loves them. But why are we not doing them more often, more than just once a year? What's it going to take for us to be able to do it once a season or once a month or once a week?
What are some of your biggest concerns with safety for the kids doing this?
We have it, pretty dialed in. We have, adult volunteers who are looking out to support children in case something happens throughout the route. We have parents in the back, in case the tire goes flat. We have a pump. If there's a cut, we have Band-Aids. But generally, the biggest safety concern is cars. And thankfully, with bike buses, you're able to create safety in numbers. So we sort of create this social infrastructure before the physical infrastructure is necessarily there.
What's the weirdest situation that's happened to you during a bike bus?
Weirdest. This is sort of a funny one. So there's this, on our route, there's a long discussion in our neighborhood about adding a diverter or modal filter. We ride on neighborhood greenways, which are the preferred walking and biking routes. They end up turning into the neighborhood cut through streets. Usually when we see drivers, they just happily pull over and they just wait, and, everybody moves along safely. And this one morning, this driver, as he's driving by, doesn't pull over and he flicks me off. And my gut instinct was to flick him off back, and my hand was halfway ready to flip him the bird. And then I remembered there was, 50 kids right behind me, and that probably wouldn't be the best idea. So I put my hand back in my pocket. And thankfully, the city followed through with the diverter, and now we don't have to interact with drivers who are just trying to save a couple seconds. It's all local traffic who know about us.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's the end of the summer for me too. Did you guys start yet?
No, we start in a couple weeks.
It's always a big thing, changing your filter back. I used to tell my own kids I would swear more when I got home at the end of the day during the school year, just because you have to keep it in the whole day, and you have to be totally PG and G-rated the entire day, and then you get home and you're just a little bit of a sailor.
Yeah. And it's like the Papa Bear comes in, and you're like, whoa, bro, do you not see all these kids? You just want to go Hulk Hogan on them. But that would not, set a good example.
If somebody was in a car looking at us as we went by,
yeah, I'd say they would see a vast ocean of joy. They'd see a group of kids just having huge smiles on their faces, feeling free on their bikes, and you'd have a bunch of parents and community members who are just really proud of the children and are there to support them. And it's actually something really cool is there's a research group in Glasgow, Scotland, and they were doing research on drivers who see the bike bus and, what their perceptions are of it. The research isn't fully out yet, but I met with them this summer, and drivers really do sort of understand what's happening, that it's a need for safer infrastructure, and that these communities are coming together because the infrastructure isn't necessarily there, but the desire for children to be able to bike to school and have that autonomy is very much present.
We've been trying to do everything from all different directions to just increase cycling in our town. And we've made huge gains in some areas and no gains in other areas. If somebody was going to start something like this, what is some of the advice that you would give somebody starting maybe a once-a-year bike bus to start with? Would you suggest that they do an annual one to start with, or do a monthly and commit? What's some of the advice you give somebody?
Yeah, if the choice was once a year or, never doing it, of course I'd say do it once. But, if you do it once, what would it take to be able to do it once a season or once a month? And so I think just sort of being open to that, just because it's a one-day-a-year event doesn't mean you only have to do it one day a year. You can actually do it as much as your community is able to do it. But in terms of starting a bike bus, I would say just do it. Sort of the 4 steps I say is to find another family or, community member to do it with, to make a route with meeting times and share it, make a flyer and share it with your community, be incredibly inclusive. You don't have to create a route for every kid in the school. It's better to start with one route and to build momentum. And then over time, as you, build more social capital, you can expand to more parts of your catchment zone. So we used to do a walking school bus in Boston every Friday, and it was from a park that was 200 yards from our school. We could see the school from the park. And that simple act of walking those 200 yards every Friday was amazing. We were able to just come together. The kids were able to play on the playground. But also what we found is parents who were driving were like, wait a minute, I can just drop off my kid right here and they'll walk to school and I can just go back home or, go to work and they don't have to wait in the school car line. And we were like, yeah, bring them over. That's 200 more yards of physical activity that child got that they would have, otherwise not gotten sitting in a school car line. So you don't have to, solve all of societal's ills, but like finding ways to create opportunities for physical activity in community is really important.
Love that.
As a teacher who's had crossing guard duty and bus duty and school car line duty, and then you have the experience of leading a walking school bus or leading a bike bus, those mornings are so much different than every other morning. And the way that the students arrive to school, they're just so much more joyful and just so much more prepared to learn. And I always think about one of my students at my school that I taught at in Roxbury, the student Quadier. He was a fourth grader. And he would, come off the bus late, super overstimulated, would run down, pick up his breakfast, run upstairs, and was like expected to, sit there and learn all day. And of course, he would get sent to the principal's office a lot because he was a fourth grade boy. And so we did a walking school bus from close to where he lived. And that day at lunch, I was in my gym eating my lunch, and the gym door was locked. And I hear banging on the door, and I'm like, well, who is that? And so I go and check, and it's Quadier. And Quadier's like, Coach Balto, when are we doing our next walking school bus? And you just like have those experiences where you see how this kid really bought into it and just how meaningful it was for him, how he felt the difference. Once you see and have those experiences, you can really understand why we need to prioritize children's mobility so much more.
Is there anybody in your bike bus that you want to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to all the Yellow Jackets. They're the group of parents and community members who help support our bike bus every week, and we all wear our Clever Hood bike bus jackets, and our fun name is the Yellow Jackets. And they're volunteering their time every week to create this opportunity for joy and community. So I couldn't do it without them.
And where would people go if they wanted to find out more about you and your bike bus?
Yeah, so you can see my videos on most social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Coach Balto. But I'm also taking a break from teaching, and I'm working on starting a national bike bus organization. So you can learn more at bikebusworld.org.
That's awesome. So bikebusworld.org.
Yep.
Coach, thank you so much for spreading joy out there and all your work with the bike buses. Look forward to seeing the website.
Thank you. Happy bike busing.
If you're ready, say we ready.
And now, a holiday message that has meaning throughout the year.
Scrooge!
Jacob Marley, you were my writing partner in life. Why are you back here now dressed like this? Why are you all wrapped up in your bike chain? And why do you have tubes wrapped all around you? There must be like a dozen sets of tubes just wrapped around your body. What the heck's going on?
Scrooge! I forgot to do my ABC quick check before my ride.
I know, nobody has time for that.
No, Scrooge. Safety is our business. Every time we ride. It only takes a couple of minutes to do an ABC quick check before you get out on the road or trail.
Wait, we still haven't talked about why you're here, why you're glowing, stuff like that.
Enough. A is for air. Squeeze your tires every time before you ride. Pinch them on the sidewall to see if they have pressure. Every few rides, actually check the pressure with a gauge.
Come on, Jacob, you always used to laugh at that.
And look at me now, Scrooge. B is for brakes. Quickly check your brake handles to make sure they don't go all the way down to the bar. Inspect pads, rims, rotors. If you have rim brakes, make sure the pads aren't touching the tire.
I mean, it's all fairly common sense, right?
Yes, Scrooge, but do you do it every time? Thought so. C is to check your chain line. Make sure your chain is intact. Make sure your derailleur is not off askew. Make sure it's not making funny noises when you pedal it around.
Well, Jacob, all this only takes a couple of minutes before each ride. Tops.
Easy for you to say, Scrooge. If I had but known, I could have avoided a world of hurt. Quick is to quickly check your wheels and how they're attached to the bike. Whether you have quick releases, through axles, or old-timey nuts, make sure your wheels are attached to the bike and fully into their dropouts.
Okay, all right. You're freaking me out a little bit. Is there anything else?
Yes, Scrooge. I like to pick up my bike about 4 inches off the ground and drop it. I listen for any unusual noises. And for the first couple of minutes of the ride, I pay attention to the bicycle. Does it feel normal? I try the brakes. I listen for rattling or scraping. Do all these things, Scrooge, and you will avoid a fate like mine.
And just like that, the spirit of Jacob Marley was gone. This has been a public service announcement from the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stores podcast. Do your ABC Quick Check every time before you ride. Now back to the show. One of the first podcasts I ever listened regularly to had a mid-roll section where he thanked all the people who had followed him that week. And I thought to myself, if I ever have a podcast, I'm going to do that too, because that's a classy move. So here's my mid-roll thank yous, the mid-roll gratitudes. For following on Podbean, which is where the podcast is hosted, thank you very much to Karen, Salvatore, Zikjibinpin, Army Dog, Kujjuju, WP Mudge G8, Teal Trip, Anthony, Riz Pumhaz, Gum Gray 71, Sal, Stuart Marshall, Alan Clinkby, GG11, and John Wood. It doesn't matter what your username is, and that's why I have trouble pronouncing them sometimes, but if you follow on any of the platforms, you help to raise the prominence of the show in the evil algorithm. So thank you very much for following on those or any other place where you follow the show. Another organic way to help follow the show and support us is to ask for and share around responsibly some stickers. So thank you very much for Ian from Oregon, Steve from Ohio, David from Montana, Parker from Georgia, and Theoden from North Carolina. Thank you very much for asking for stickers, and hopefully they arrive. If you'd like stickers and promise to place them responsibly somewhere and share them around, just email me at bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. That's bikekarmaguy@gmail.com, and I'll send them anywhere in the world that the mail delivers for free. Helping me have the ability to pay for the postage and to send stickers free all over the world are some of the people in my small but awesome group of supporters on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month and with the ability to cancel at any time, you can help me pay for the costs associated with the show, such as buying the stamps and ordering the stickers and paying for the service that I host the website on. All my income comes from my day job, which is a teacher. I just really appreciate the ability to have the funds on hand to be able to order stickers or to get more postage or to put the website up and pay for the service that does that. So thank you to the folks at Patreon, including newest members, David, Allison, Mason, and John. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. No matter what your outlook on the year 2025 is, you know that inflation is going to be a hot issue. Bicycle inflation went crazy during the pandemic. The price of an entry-level bicycle at a bike shop seemingly doubled in some cases. And even though distributors and manufacturers and even the bike shops have been forced to slash their prices, they're still way higher than pre-pandemic, including bicycle parts. One of the ways we can all help each other with this problem is by looking and seeing what we have that we're not using in terms of bicycle parts in our possession. Do you have some brand new tire takeoffs that you knew you weren't going to like and they've just been hanging around? They're somebody else's dream tire. Do you have a really expensive winter cycling jacket that you tried once and it wasn't for you? Somebody's been spending hours Googling around trying to find that same jacket. Bought a bike during the pandemic and now you're overwhelmed about trying to sell it maybe? Well, in all these scenarios, Fred Thomas at the Frame and Wheel is there to help you get more time, space, and cash. Something simple such as what price do I even ask for this? That is a crazy question to answer because the comparables are all over the place, but guess who knows? Fred Thomas at the Frame and Wheel. He follows the market on the daily. He'll get it, post it, describe it, set the price for it, find the customer, get the payment, pack it, ship it, deal with crazy people that you won't want to deal with. And of course he takes his cut, but then he just cuts you a check, or you could apply those funds to a charity or a purchase of a new bike such as one of his AD bikes. Whether you're looking for something that Santa didn't bring you or you're looking to clear out, please check out the Frame and Wheel. Now back to the show. Bike shops in 2024 sometimes deal with a lot of stuff coming from all different directions. You got e-bikes, you got old bikes, you got new bikes, you've got the industry which is twisting and turning, trying to preserve itself and not help out the individual shop owners. And yet, sometimes even the customers have unreasonable expectations. I'm here in Traverse City, Michigan, and I'm at a shop, and you basically had a customer who had some unrealistic expectations for you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Trevor Schmitz, and I'm the owner of Einstein Cycles. Yeah, I had a customer that brought in an old Schwinn, and it was an old, comfort Schwinn. He said, I'd like to have this running by the end of the day. And then he goes on to tell me that he just pulled it out of a chicken coop, and it had been sitting in the chicken coop for about 30 years. And he wanted me to tune it up and to put some new tires on it so that it was safe to ride. And of course, he brought his own white wall tires. However, he did not know that, like I did, that it takes a special size 26, not just a standard off-the-shelf 26-inch tire. So, I had to explain to him that I couldn't get it working with that. We had to put, different tires on there for him. And we did end up getting it done. It was the next day, not end of day, but it was a trip to work on a bike that was that filthy dirty.
Is there a company that basically makes a specific product to take chicken poo off of a bike?
Well, they don't call out chicken's poo specifically, but we in our shop use Muck Off. And it does a fantastic job with pretty much any organic matter you can think of, including chicken poo.
Wow. And the customer was happy?
The customer was happy. We've seen them back here several times after that with cleaner bikes than that. So it's been good.
So would you rather do a tri-bike or another chicken bike?
I would rather do another chicken bike, honestly. The tri-bikes are the worst. They are the absolute worst. And I think we probably all know why.
All right. If people would like to go to a shop in Traverse City that does not shy away from any type of bike, no matter what condition when you bring it in, where would they go?
I would say Einstein Cycles. Well, we have a shop in Traverse City, and we have a shop in Cadillac, Michigan as well, right off the corner of 4 Mile and Munson Avenue. Einstein Cycles on Facebook and Instagram, and then we also have a website, einsteincycles.com.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have you ever seen one of those movies where there's a bad guy and he cuts the brakes on somebody's car and then the people are driving along and then they start going down a steep hill and they realize that their brakes aren't working and they're in a car? sometimes in movies they try and pass off the same thing with a bicycle. And as the kids say, something about it struck me as being a little bit sus. So I've spent more time than I probably should thinking about what to do if your brakes go on a bike. Now, don't sue me, I'm not telling you to do this, but we're just talking about it. And all of these thoughts, for me, were very analytical and academic and theoretical until a few weeks ago, when I found myself at the top of a mountain in Bristol, Connecticut. I've run this mountain before. I've never biked up it because I'm not sure it's even possible. I would pay to watch people try and do it, and I've certainly never biked down it until this day a couple weeks ago. This next short little story is about me putting those academic theories into practice. So I just got done with this ride. It's like a 900-foot descent in about a mile. And it's one of the steepest, craziest roads I know in Connecticut. I've run it a bunch of times, but I don't think I've ever seen another bike on it, although I know people do bike it. Anyway, because I have a healthy sense of danger, I decided not to go down full barrel, as it ends at this really abrupt stop sign with cross traffic that's pretty intense and hardly ever stops. So I'm feathering my brakes. I've got disc brakes, fairly wide tires, and I'm going downhill, and this is the type of hill that you could easily get up to like 80 miles an hour on and just end up, that's it, that's your end. And at one point I'm just grabbing my brakes and they just stop working. It's like all of a sudden I feel them stop gripping, and I start increasing speed even though my brakes are fully applied. I'm grabbing them as hard as I can, so I do the old, I'm going to feather, but I'm on this deep section. So I reach back with my sneaker and I do the old hope you never have to do it routine, where you take your sneaker and you rub it against your tire. Gently, gingerly, but firmly to try and stop it a little bit. And it worked enough. I took a side street that was perpendicular to the hill. There you have it. And then I started feathering my brakes again. And, by pumping them, they were fine. It wasn't hydraulics. This was line brakes. So it wasn't anything to do with that. I think that there was just some amazing overheating, great physics dynamics that I don't care to really understand that deeply, as long as my brakes are working again, and I might have to change my pads. But anyway, so yeah, it works. The whole put your sneaker, if you're wearing sneakers, back on the tire to slow down. It's not recommended, it's not sanctioned, but it does in a pinch. Unlike a car whose brake lines have been cut in a movie, if you find yourself without brakes going down a hill on a bike, you could just reach back with that one leg and try this emergency move, but I probably don't want to do it unless it's a last-ditch effort. Anyway, so that was exciting. I told my friend the story after it happened, and he looked at his bike, which has fenders, and we both started wondering, how would that work then? Thank you very much for coming along with me on a ride in another episode of the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast. I appreciate you coming along. I'd like to thank Keller Glass and his former band Mobjack for our wonderful opening and closing theme music. Thank you very much, and encourage you to go check out his other work. We met when he wanted to fix up an old bike, and we got to talking. And he's one of the most talented musicians I personally know. Search him up at kellerglass.com. Want to also give a quick shout out to Dr. Jessica McKenzie in West Hartford, Connecticut. She is my awesome, very practical chiropractor, and she helps keep my posture good and my back straight. Recommend highly. If you have an idea for a story for the show, or you have comments or suggestions, or perhaps you'd like a free sticker pack mailed anywhere in the world, you can just email me at bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. That's bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. Please check us out on all the social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and now Blue Sky, Twitter, whatever that's named now. To kick off the new year, I'm going to be giving away a bunch of stuff, like a t-shirt, some books on cycling and bicycles, maybe even a tool or two. So keep an eye out for that. I also have some new stickers being shipped out, so if you're a bike shop owner or you work at a co-op, anywhere in the world, I can send you a big display sticker and a bunch of giveaway stickers for absolutely free, as a thank you for helping to get the word about the show out. Apart from the music, the Bike Karma Bicycle and Cycling Stories podcast is the intellectual property of Tom Brown. All rights, including copyrights, trademarks, and the right to tell Skynet to not try and copy me, are asserted and reserved. We are fast approaching the 10-year anniversary of the show. Crazy how time rolls by. Thanks for coming along. Until next time, keep it wheel.